Okay, this is an introduction I use for history of architecture when we still perform lecture-based learning. Today we perform like a research-based learning. So that's why you have to write your essay. You have to learn to do research and reference. Okay. So what is architecture? That's the basic question that we should know first, right? We know about history. We know about explanation approach, right? There are four explanation approaches in history. But what is architecture? Let's think about it. Okay. Okay, look at these images. The question is, why do the springboks seek shelters? Shelter is a protection, right? Springbok is that group of deer, look like a deer, right? Why? Question, you think of the answer in your head, right? The simple question, a simple answer is that because it want to be safe, right? It's too hot in middle of the day in Africa. So you know that it takes turn. Usually the young and the weak will be stay in the middle of the circle. And the springbok outside is like the penguin. It take turn, right? It take turn to take the shade. Every living being seek shelter for safety, right? And to live, to rest, right? And many species seek shelter, but there are some species that build the shelter, right? Like see this bee build the beehive, right? But the king of the jungle seek shelter. They did not have the ability to build. Okay. So human used to seek shelter, and then we also have the ability to build the shelter. And once we know how to build, we be, we never seek shelter anymore, right? So the shelter and architecture, is it the same? Because creating shelter is a natural ability of animal. You know, the bee have the school of architecture, the termites have school of architecture. Of course not, right? And many birds and beaver, they don't go to school of engineering so they can build a dam. So how can we define shelter and architecture? How can we differentiate, separate ourselves from these natural builder, the bee, the termite, the birds, right? So you have to think, what the difference between human and other instinctive builder, right? The keyword is dexterity. Dexter is the thumb. The way our hand were designed by nature, right? We have thumb, we have finger, 4 finger, and then we can hold and grab things easily, and that make us different with particular way of brain, a good brain and hand. If you notice in the history, the evolution of human, on the second or the third, there these humans always hold tools, a tools that we can hold in our hand. That means we can build, we can create something, and that I believe, and many other anthropologists believe, that is our differences between human as a creator and instinctive natural builder, right? Anthropologists study an ape, right? The dexterity of the primate and the human was similar, right? The survival instinct drive them to use enclosure to build shelter rather than seeking. This this chimp, this chimp, they're traveling, in the forest, um, to gather fruits from the tree leaf, right? And they probably move 1 or 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers per day, and then at night they stop. When they stop, the apes, they began to nest. They began to build the space for their sleep. You see, the way they build is they weave. The weaving means they put the three twigs, the branch together to make a space that they can sleep at night, right? This ability of seeking shelter, seeking food, arranging structure to make a living area, or adapting natural structure to fit their need is the ability of instinctive builder. But human can creating structure in the environment, right? We can use the materials and create mimics, imitate the nature, right? We used to be a hunter-gatherer. It means we following food. Our food is the bison. Our food is the deer, right? It's the springbok or the mammoth. Human eat every kind of meat, right? So we traveling along the animal until we know how to uh, grow food. We stop following food. We stop following animal. We began to domesticate animal. We began to do farming, right? We stay in the cave. We do farming. We plant rice, barley, and then we began to adapt in the environment. When we ran out of, at certain point in time, humans just stopped living in cave because nobody can explain clearly why, what is the exact reason, but it seemed that human in that period about 12,000 BC, they began to know about the structure, creating the standalone structure. By that time, human also already know how to control fire. Human did not create or discovering fire, right? The key point that fire have impact on human civilization is that we know how to control it. We know how to light fire. We know how to use the heat in a particular amount so that we can cook rice or cook meat without burning it. From that moment on, the key invention, the dexterity, the way we use hand, use our brain to create our environment. We control fire, so we have a nice warm place. We deliberately growing the grains, the rice, right? Or the barley, the wheat, depend on the area. Domesticating animal, right? The cow, we use the cow, or we have cattle, we have goat, we have what other kind of meat in the farm. We began to organize labor, right? This group of people doing this job, this group of people do the other job, right? And then the last one, we found that humans in the past began to show the symbolic thinking. They began to mark the symbol on the cave wall, for example, on the clay plate, right? And later on, they began to write. This is why I want you to start thinking about the basic human activities, the two basic human activities. One is to live, right? To eat, to sleep, right? To rest when you are sick, right? That's residential, that's the house. And the symbolic thinking, the way humans think about environment, their imagination, the symbolic meanings that they detect from lightning. They think about Thor, right? Or the way they think about gods, they think about darkness, right? They are, let's say, body and mind, if you want, if you like. It's a very simple body and mind. The body, right? The house, the mind, the temple. Okay. In the same way, if we see this timeline of development, you see subhuman architecture. We talk about apes nest. Um, we talk about beehive. We talk about beaver dam, right? And then we talk about semantic architecture, something that the creature, the humans, built so that they can, it represent, it keep their mind calm, or it help them feel safe. That the semantic architecture, the architecture that have meaning, right? And then, okay, subhuman architecture is built by instinct, right? And on another level, we see domestic architecture and semantic architecture. That the two idea that we gonna study in module 2, right? Domestic is physical, semantic is psychological, the mind. And then sedentary architecture means like a village. Human is a social animal, right? Live together. Together is better. So we build house close together. We organize labor. We help each other. Become a group of architecture that's sedentary, right? So conclusion one, you have to think about the factor that drive human to manipulate the environment. So the factor is that the human activities, okay? Then you think in what way that the humans manipulate the environment. Like they create the hearth in the images. This the hearth. Hearth is like the fireplace. Like it's the same thing, but fireplace is a modern development of hearth, right? To create a warm temperature in the room, right? They create a window. They create elevated bed to make them comfortable, right? This is the analysis of residential architecture in the history. Okay. Next, the idea of temple, the idea of worshipping, the idea of semantic architecture. I would like you to think about the relationship of humans and the places, right? They have aesthetic expression. Aesthetic, it just mean beauty. Aesthetic mean also some other meaning that happen in the mind and they express it out, right? It doesn't have to be about the beautiful detail ornaments only, okay? So in a way, the way human have show that relationship, they draw on the wall of the cave, is mean that this is my cave, right? This is my story. They express their idea, their impression of that environment, of the other living creature that they found in their environment. in the natural form, the perception and the meaning, right? Human manipulate nature, right? Natural materials, but it's depend on their perception and what they want to say. Okay, so this is, but in this way is particularly important because this is the way also that I'm training you. I want you to see your perception. How do you understand the architecture, the example that you put in the timeline, and what does it mean to you? Okay, explain it using the word to explain it, to explain your idea. Okay, there's also other example of human, that use symbol in the decoration, use symbolic form, like this column in Egyptian temple, right? You see the natural elements, you see natural element that they use in the style of the column, right? It comes from nature. So human and environment, okay? Natural, physical way, cultural, temple, the soul, the mind is the basic condition of our way of life, right? So think about, why do we build in the way we build? Why did prehistoric people build that way? Why Gothic people build in this way, right? And what is their thinking behind the actions? Okay, you are the designer. You're gonna be an architect. So what does this existing environment mean? We see, from the cave, from the basic hut, ziggurat, we see the Colosseum, we see the castle in the Mycenaean, and today high-rise, multi-story building office. In this development, what does it mean? What did you see as a pattern? What is your understanding? Okay. Um, all right. Let's stop recording.